So welcome back into another episode of Spaceman 2.0 Phoenix Truth Rising Show. Help you grow in the knowledge and wisdom of the truth, and the truth will set you free. Exposing the Illuminati's plan of world conquest, which is the death knell to the New World Order. So we'll just get right back into from part 17, part 18. Let's look at what the Sumerians said about our planets, and especially the sun, looking as a disk with triangular rays extending from its round surface. Why? Let's look at your sun. When you can view the sun with the unclothed eye, say at dawn or at sunset, it appears to be a perfect disk. Even when viewed with the telescopes, it has the shape of a perfect globe. Yet the Sumerians depicted it as a disk with triangular rays extending from its round surface. Why? In 1980, astronomers of the High Altitude Observatory of the University of Colorado took pictures of the sun with a special camera during an eclipse observed in a location in the country of India. The pictures revealed that because of magnetic influences, the sun's corona gives it the appearance of a disk with triangular rays extending from its surface, just as the Sumerians had depicted millennia earlier. In January of 1983, an author named ZACHARIAH SITCHIN, born in Russia and raised in Palestine, an economist, an economics history professor, brought this enigmatic representation, which was on a Sumerian cylinder seal, to the attention of the editor of Scientific American, a journal that reported the astronomer's discovery. In response, the editor, Dennis Flanagan, wrote to him on January 27, 1983. Thank you for your letter of January 25th. What you have to say is most interesting, and we may well be able to publish it. In addition to the many puzzles posed by this depiction, he had written in his letter, foremost of which is the source of the Sumerian knowledge, is now their apparent familiarity with the true shape of the sun's corona. Do you suppose it is the need to acknowledge the source of Sumerian knowledge that is still holding up publication of what Scientific American has deemed most interesting? What would be your best guess? Let's read that again. Do you suppose it is the need to acknowledge the source of Sumerian knowledge that is still holding up publication of what Scientific American has deemed most interesting? What would be your best guess? Dharma, allow us to close hereat, for the writing grows long. I wish to put the next couple of segments to tape this afternoon, for we will get too far behind if we do not. The next segment begins to get really interesting, so I would like to clear the backlog in a bit, if you would be able to make yourself available for that specific task. We will be taking up the messengers of Genesis when we next write on the subject of the divine plan. HATONN to clear, please. Blessings rest upon you who are willing to see and hear, for upon your shoulders rests the survival of a species. Salute. Chapter 11, recording number 1, HATONN, Wednesday, June 10, 1992, 7:21 a.m., year 5, day 299. Meditation. As we move on to write of messengers, let it be remembered that always there have been the messengers sent, as far back in your books of instructions, even unto Isaiah, who was a messenger. There have been signs of that which would come, and messengers to tell truth, that man might know that which to seek for protection and journey into the unknown. Always, too, the instructions have been to turn from your errors, so that you would be worthy of acceptance into the places of the ones come to bring you into safety. See Matthew 3 and Isaiah 42:19. How can you recognize the messengers and signs, even miracles, if you know not for what to look? Most of all, you must respect life, all life, for you were sent as stewards, and you have forgotten. One of the most important of creation's natural laws is that all life is equal. That's a fact which must be acknowledged before man can expect to find balance and growth in any enlightened community. You have to respect life, all life, not just your own. The key word is respect. Unless you respect the earth, you destroy it. Unless you respect all life as much as your own life, you become a destroyer, a murderer. Know, too, that there is a great difference in respect and worship. Respect gives retention of control and power onto the giver. Worship gives all control and power onto the worship. Responsibility is the key. All must respect all, if self is to flourish in wisdom among the higher brotherhood of human. Genesis messengers. Genesis's messengers. Ah, you expected me to speak of people who were sent as messengers? People are most unstable and forgetful, Chellas. God nor creation would entrust the signs and messages of unchangeable magnitude into the hands of humans. In higher wisdom, he will always send messengers which cannot be cajoled, bribed, or tampered with. Halley's Comet, etc. Of what am I speaking? Example, in 1986, mankind was given involved in proper sequence, a once-in-a-lifetime event, that appearance of a messenger from the past, a messenger of Genesis. It was a comet, which had been spoken of since Genesis. However, in your latter accounting, you decided to label it Halley's Comet, but I remind you, a rose by any other name is but a rose. Halley's Comet is unique in many ways, as it differs from the many comets and other small objects that roam the heavens. Among the differences is the fact that its recorded appearances have been traced to millennia past, as well as the fact that modern science was able, in 1986, to conduct for the first time a comprehensive close-up examination of a comet and its core, or so it was claimed. The first fact underscores the excellence of ancient astronomy. Because of the second, data was obtained that once again corroborated ancient knowledge and the tales of Genesis. In 1720, Edmund Halley became British Astronomer Royal. He had postulated that the comet he observed in 1682, and which came to bear his name, was a periodic one, the same that had been observed in 1531 and 1607. There was a chain of scientific developments which led to this during the years of 1695 to 1705. This involved the promulgation of the laws of gravitation and celestial motion by Sir Isaac Newton, and Newton's consulting with Halley about his findings. By the way, it would seem worthy to again remind you that Jesus Emmanuel was not born on December 25th, but Isaac Newton was. Perhaps that would be a most worthy celebration and stop quarrels over Jesus and Stars of David and candlesticks. Upon this time and point, the theory regarding comets was that they crossed the heavens in straight lines, appearing at one end of the skies and disappearing in the other direction, never to be seen again. But, based on Newtonian laws, Halley concluded that the curve expressed by comets is elliptical, eventually bringing these celestial bodies back to where they had been observed before. The three comets of 1531, 1607, and 1682 were unusual in that they were all orbiting in the wrong direction, clockwise rather than counterclockwise, had similar deviations from the general orbital plane of the planets around the Sun, being inclined about 17 to 18 degrees, and were similar in appearance. Concluding they were one and the same comet, he plotted its course and calculated its period, the length of time between its appearances, to be about 76 years. He then predicted that it would reappear in 1758. He did not live long enough to see his prediction come true, but he was honored by having the comet named after him. Sun enlivens comets. Like that of all celestial bodies, and especially because of a comet's small size, its orbit is easily perturbed by gravitational pull of the planets it passes. This is especially true of Jupiter's effect. Each time a comet nears the Sun, its frozen material comes to life. The comet develops a head and a very long tail and begins to lose some of its material as it turns to gas and vapor. This is an assumption based upon the best information which can be gleaned on your place. It is close enough to serve the purposes herein. All these phenomena affect the comet's orbit. Therefore, although more precise measurements have somewhat narrowed the orbital range of Halley's Comet from the 74 to 79 years that he had calculated, the period of 76 years is only a practical average. The actual orbit and its period must be recalculated each time the comet makes an appearance. With the aid of equipment now available to you, an average of 6 or so comets are reported each year. Of them, 1 or 2 are comets on return trips, while others are newly discovered. This does not mean they are not on return trips, only that they had not been discovered. Most of the recognized returning comets are short-period ones, the shortest known being that of Encke's comet, which nears the Sun and then returns to a region slightly beyond the asteroid belt. I will momentarily speak about that asteroid belt in relationship to what is coming down today on your planet in a period of a little more than 3 years. Most short-period comets average an orbital period of about 7 years, which carries them to the environs of Jupiter. Typical of them is Comet Giacobini-Zinner, named like other comets after its discoverers, which has a period of 6.5 years. Its latest passage within Earth's view was in 1985. On the other hand, there are very long-period comets, like Comet Kohoutek, which was discovered on March 1973, was fully visible in December 1973 and January 1974, and then disappeared from view, perhaps to return in 75,000 years. By comparison, the cycle of 76 years for Halley's Comet is short, enough to remain in living memories, yet long enough to retain its magic as a once-in-a-lifetime celestial event. When Halley's Comet appeared on its next-to-last passage around the Sun in 1910, its course and aspects that had been well mapped out in advance, still the Great Comet of 1910, as it was called, was awaited with great apprehension. There was fear that Earth or life on it would not survive the anticipated passage because Earth would be enveloped in the comet's tail of poisonous gases. There was also alarm at the prospect that, as was believed in earlier times, the appearance of the comet would be an ill omen of pestilence, wars, and death of kings. As the comet reached its greatest magnitude and brilliance in May of 1910, its tail stretched over more than half the vault of heaven. King Edward VII of Great Britain died. On the European continent, a series of political upheavals culminated in the outbreak of World War I in 1914. You see, the politicians already knew how to utilize your mystical aspects to their own cause. Isn't that interesting? 1986, the other Halley Comet goes by, and then 1992, we're in the war with Iraq, Gulf War. Back to the book. The belief or superstition associating Halley's Comet with wars and upheavals was fed by much that was coming to light about events that coincided with its previous appearances. The Seminole Indians' revolt against the white settlers of Florida in 1835, the Great Lisbon Earthquake of 1755, the outbreak of 30 Years' War in 1618, the Turkish siege of Belgrade in 1456, the outbreak of the Black Death, bubonic plague in 1347, all were accompanied or preceded by the appearance of a great comet, which was finally recognized as Halley's Comet, thus establishing its role as the messenger of God's wrath. Nostradamus, September, not May. How interesting to note that still it is efforted to attach Nostradamus's projections onto Halley's Comet when it is totally obvious that it cannot be Halley's Comet of which he spoke. If I were you, I would look a bit further to that big one and begin to pay more attention to September rather than May and back it off about 9 years. Asteroid bombardment expected. I wish to herein refer to the asteroid belt is already expected to affect Earth and has the politicians running nuts in total fright. They know you are apt to be hit and possibly destroyed by things from the asteroid belt. This is what SDI, Strategic Defense Initiative, is about, Chellas. Your President Reagan gave it away in a massive slip of the lip. He suggested that you had better team up with all your enemies against invasion from space. The massive amounts of money spent was for a comprehensive satellite system to hook up the globe to computer monitoring systems to nail every man, woman, and child into the system for the bankers' elite. This was the Star Wars program back in 1980s. He was putting satellites up in space to so-called blast asteroids, but it's really to keep us in a line. And look at today's directed energy weapons, DEWs, causing fires in California across Canada in the last few years. And so did the Star Wars movies come out in the 1980s, so there you go. The Star Wars portion was to set up a defense system, not against Soviet missiles, but to hopefully be able to blast oncoming asteroids before they could reach Earth. Disbelief. So what else is new? You can't seem to believe most things I tell you until you get confirmation from some author or inside reporter on your terra firma. So be it. You will get it. I promise you that much. Why don't you read the paper and watch the news? Even though you don't get any truth, the lies are sprinkled with truth if you know that for which to watch. That's what the Phoenix Journals are. Comprehensive inlay of investigative reporters from around the globe so that you can get your confirmation from this terra firma without thinking it's anything mystical and some phenomena from outer space. This is actual confirmation from people investigating this truth on our planet. So that being said, let's continue on. NASA continues to announce in the major news media and in scientific journals, which I doubt you, the people, access, that there is a probability of large meteors or asteroids striking the Earth with calamitous results. They have even suggested some possible dates of impact. NASA has further stated that it was a good thing that Ronald Reagan had the perception and foresight to build up their Strategic Defense Initiative, Star Wars, because now SDI can be used to destroy these asteroids before they strike the Earth. This is partially incorrect, for SDI was never intended to be an anti-missile defense system. If anything, it was intended to be an asteroid defense system. This according to your own scientists. The telescopes that were not launched but retained in White Sands are now launched and working just fine. They are covering possible asteroid invasion. This is just another ploy to not tell you what the governments are doing, all of them in conjunction via their elite coalitions and security councils and secret meetings with secret agendas hidden under things such as national security and executive privilege. The communist threat and the Soviet nuclear attack, as have been presented for your consumption, was a pretty sick joke on the people of the world. These were fabricated to keep you working hard and paying taxes to finance the New World Order. The Soviet war machine has been financed and subsidized by the American taxpayer since 1917 through such organizations as the American International Corporation, on whose board of directors sat George Herbert Walker, the grandfather of George Herbert Walker Bush. This has been known for years, Chellis. Ask Eustace Mullins. He wrote all about it in his book, The American International Corporation, as well as the Committee of 300. Get that book from Eustace Mullins. I think you must become aware that in addition to the major underground facilities in the United States, which I presented to you, there are at least 50 new ones which I am reminded to mention to you. I think you must become aware that in addition to the major underground facilities in the United States, which I presented to you, there are at least 50 new ones which I am reminded to mention to you. And remember, this is 30 years back, so imagine now. One of the major ones I have saved to speak about at a later date and will still reserve for a bit longer is one well known and